Welcome to this Cambridge Marketing College webinar. We are going to be talking today about the introduction to the concept of the customer journey. This is something you might have heard of as the sales pipeline, customer experience, customer journey. It goes by lots of different names. We're going to understand, in essence, the customer's experience and journey from awareness to retention. So literally every stepping point, every stepping stone, every click, every interaction, every part of the experience that your customer has from their initial awareness all the way through to you retaining them as a valuable long-term customer. So we're going to explore how to choreograph a meaningful customer experience that drives lifetime value. So you may well have heard the phrase customer lifetime value. Well, this is where it comes into play because the lifetime value needs to be for you as the brand, so that you're going to be getting some commercial value, but also some intrinsic value from having customers, as well as those customers getting value too. So we're going to introduce this idea of a customer journey as being very much a living process rather than just purely a sales funnel. So this is going to be one that moves through different mindsets and emotions and actions. So we're going to build a map that will show how customer behavior, how we can stimulate trust, and how we can design interactions that grow lifetime value really come together in something you might otherwise call customer experience. So this is literally paying attention to and being really mindful of every step in your customer's journey of engagement with you. This is super important. No business is going to grow, no marketer is going to be successful, no entrepreneur is going to see true value until they really understand customer journey. Because this is taking the customer's perspective and taking it to the nth degree, looking forensically from the perspective of your customer back into your organization and just looking and thinking and feeling, what are we doing to give value to our customer at every point in that step-by-step engagement? So by the end of this session, I'm hoping you're going to be able to understand the three core journey phases. So we call those awareness, conversion, and retention. So building awareness in your customers' minds, converting that awareness into some kind of commitment or transaction, and then retaining that customer for the long term. Awareness, conversion, retention. We're going to recognize the customer's mindsets, which will be different within each phase. So just think for a moment, if somebody's becoming aware of you, their mindset's going to be different to the point where they are ready to then commit to you. And the same will be different again for the retention phase, where they already know what you do, they've experienced your product or service, and now you're entering into a longer term relationship with them. The mindset will be different. So we need to recognize and respond to that at each phase. We're going to design some actions that will move customers forward in the journey because we don't want them stopping at any one point in the journey. They need to seamlessly, or as a phrase, a word, frictionlessly move through the journey. And we're going to connect these steps to enhanced CLV, or customer lifetime value. So it's super important stuff. It'll help you to grow your business. It'll help you to give more value back to everybody who encounters your business. And it's going to make you feel good too. So this is really, really key. So let's define customer journey. It's the path from first awareness to long-term loyalty. Remember those three phases: awareness, conversion, retention. So it's that first awareness through to long-term loyalty. But the path is not linear. It doesn't go necessarily just step by step by step by step, and everybody takes that same path, following the customer in front of them and leading the customer behind them. It doesn't quite work like that because it's choreographed, though, through various touch points and emotions. So certain people, because of their needs or their values that they have or their preferences, will take maybe a slightly different journey to others. And so we need to kind of be able to match those. That's important. And when you plan this thing, this idea of customer journey, you move from randomness to your customer experience to relevance. So at each and every single step, you become more relevant, you become easier to engage with, you become much easier to work with. And so it's a win-win-win for everybody. But when you ignore it, you are going to be leaving value on the table, as simple as that, because you're reliant on the whims of the customer. You're reliant on the customer really understanding what the next step in the journey is. And of course, for most of us, we don't want to be working that out. We want to be led. We don't have the time to go figure things out for ourselves. We want to be shown. So you will be leaving value on the table if you ignore it. So it is relatively straightforward. If the only thing you take away from this talk is that the customer journey is the three phases of awareness, conversion, retention, I've got to take each one seriously, then you've kind of made some progress forward. But we're going to be going deeper, obviously, within this session. So the awareness stage, this is all about capturing attention and earning trust. So we're going to figure out how can we do that, because there's a lot of mindset shifts going on in the awareness stage as people start to become more and more aware of the value they might get from a relationship with us or a purchase of our product or service. We're going to be then looking at the conversion stage. This is turning intent or intention into action. So by the word conversion kind of says we're converting the awareness into a behavior. So people are going to actually commit because they get it. They understand why they would want to get into a relationship with our brand or our business. And then we're going to turn that conversion, that behavioral commitment, into a deepening relationship for advocacy and lifetime value. So that's the retention phase, where people are very happy to go long term with us. Now, each phase is defined by the customer mindset, not just the marketing tactic. So you could plot this all out in isolation. You could just say, well, okay, I'm going to put some channels in here, do a bit of social, go and send out some emails, maybe have a meeting, I'm going to sell to the customer, make that transaction super easy. And then we're just going to follow up with a load of newsletters afterwards. You could do that, of course. It is a whole set of channels and marketing tactics. But unless you understand how the customer's feeling, how the customer wants certain things and has certain preferences at different points in that journey, because they're on a lifetime journey in this whole thing as well, then you'll be missing on that key lever in turning this customer journey into real value for both parties. So we've got to be thinking about these three sections, if you like, as they come in through the top of the awareness funnel, get down to converting because they trust us and believe in us, all the way through to then that long-term relationship. There's a lot of stuff going on in play here, but the concept is still very, very simple and straightforward. So let's get into it. Let's start with part one, which is very much this idea of the awareness stage, because you can't really do customer journey unless you've actually got some customers to play with. So we've got to make customers aware. Now, what is happening from their perspective as they come into the awareness stage? So the first time they kind of meet us or think of us or see us on socials or wherever, their mindset is they want to move from a position of hope through faith to trust. So they hope they're going to get something out of this attention they're giving to us. They start to build a little bit of faith that, okay, this is an organization I could do business with. Yeah, this is quite good. And then they start to trust us because we're giving them evidence, tangible evidence that this stuff is actually working. So the hope is I can find a solution, I hope. Faith is I believe this brand might help me. And the trust is I trust them enough to explore further. So your role as a business owner, entrepreneur, or marketer is to move the customer from possibility to confidence. That's it. You can say, well, my product's better than yours and this, that, and the other. It's all about the customer and what's going on in their head. Because no matter how good you say you are, no matter how much evidence you've got, if they don't believe it, if they don't start to have faith that, yeah, you're going to solve their problem, and you're actually listening, actively listening to their needs. And yeah, okay, I'm starting to trust that, I can explore this a bit further with you, then you're going to lose them. So it is very much taking a customer perspective, putting customer first, as we often say in marketing. That's super important. So, in this part one, in this phase of the awareness, moving from hope to faith to trust, there will be some touch points, and the touch points are going to be relevant, obviously, to you and your customer. So, where your customer would identify with kind of having a relationship with you, those are the places where you are going to choose some channels and actions that will spark this initial engagement on their terms. So, it might be social media. It could be some PR stories, maybe some earned media, so some coverage where people are giving you reviews and testimonials and stuff. This could be SEO generated or SEO, related content. Could be some blog articles, bit of thought leadership. It might be influencer collaborations. You might be appearing at events or doing some sponsorships. This is all about building awareness, because unless you've got awareness, you haven't hooked anybody in to take them deeper into the journey. So this has to be the starting point. So that's an important thing to think about. The awareness touch points are where your customers are most likely to see you in a relevant way. And then through those channels, we can start to put some information. So we're going to fuel these channels in the awareness stage with content and information, knowledge, intelligence that will build hope to trust. So we're going to go through that hope to faith to trust kind of journey for them. So we're going to offer clarity, simple, relevant messages. Don't complicate things. People are not going to move frictionlessly to the next stage in the journey if you complicate stuff. So you've got to keep it simple. You might have a lot to say, but they don't want to hear it. You need to demonstrate credibility. So reviews, testimonials, or any certifications that relate to your product or service at this stage are just those confidence builders. Remember, we're moving them from hope to faith to trust. We've got to be consistent. So across all content and channels, we've got to be sharing consistent messages. That doesn't mean duplicate messages, because some channels, particularly social media, will have a different style or tone of voice maybe, so things need to be adapted, but it has to be consistent information, simple, relevant, and building that credibility. And we also need to show empathy, reflecting customer pain points authentically. So it's a really important thing that we've got to do here, is this balance between sharing some information that hooks people in, but also demonstrating really clearly that we're actually listening to them. We're listening to what they need. We're looking to solve their pain points or their challenges. So we're not just here to do a transaction and not really care. We genuinely care because we genuinely want a relationship with this customer. So a little exercise for you whilst we're going through this is, can you identify one area in your, as we'll call it, top of funnel communication that builds trust rather than only awareness? Is there something you're doing in any one of your channels that you could say, well, look, that's where we've done it? Can you identify some of these top of funnel communication channels? I mean, do you know where you're building awareness? And for a lot of marketers, a lot of businesses, that is literally where marketing starts and stops. So you probably will find some examples, but are you starting to build trust through those channels and through that content? Because if you're not, there's a lot of work here to be done. So it's exciting, it's positive. So let's assume we've got that person now trusting us. So their mindset now is to move from trust, okay, I trust you, through to a decision and then taking action. Okay, so even though they trust us, if they're not willing to take a decision to change behavior or to commit and then actually do the action, then that awareness stage has been completely wasted for both parties. So we're looking here at this second stage, the conversion stage of the customer journey, as a conversion mindset that is trust, decision, and action. So trust, I know enough now because you've shared it with me to consider buying. The decision is I've compared and I've chosen. So, of course, you're generally not going to be the only player in the game or in their mindset, because they probably looked at your competitors and thought, okay, do I trust these guys more or those guys more? Well, okay, I've compared and I've chosen, and it's you. And then the commitment then obviously comes through the actual action, which is I'm ready to commit. And this is the conversion point in the journey. Remember a little earlier, we showed those triangles where, all of those channels in the awareness stage are feeding down into this one conversion point. That is your key. That is your main objective, is to get, no matter which path they choose, getting the person to that conversion point. So as soon as they're ready to commit because they trust you, you need to get that decision and that action quickly after the trust. So think about your channels, think about your communications. Are they all ultimately directed to this conversion point? Or do you just leave people hanging? you just leave dead ends, in the content that you're creating? Or do you make those calls to action very clear so people had taken on this route map step by step, ultimately ending at this conversion stage with full trust they're going to get value from you? So your goal is to make the path from interest to purchase as frictionless and as confidence building as possible. That is absolutely key. So, in this conversion stage, what are your touch points going to be? Well, it's probably website and landing pages. Could be part of this is product demos or free trials. It could be, a salesperson calls and there's a meeting involved. Depends on obviously on your product or service. It could be there's some email sequences and maybe some retargeting ads. You might want to use chatbots and some AI or some live support. But here, a lot of the time, and this is where people get this wrong because they try this too early in the journey, is social proof. So this is where you're going to get best value from the reviews, the user-generated content, the testimonials, those kinds of things. At around this conversion point is where it is key. Do these things too high up in the journey and people haven't even sort of got interest in you yet, but do it here and it can get somebody over the line. It can drive that trust to a decision that, yeah, these guys are good. Look, all this social proof. I'm not the first person to take this decision. Okay, I'm going to go with you. And then the action happens. So that's a great kind of little reminder of where to put this kind of content. Because if you do it that way, you're much likely to get them over the line. So there are some practical steps you can take here. Obviously, as we're trying to remove the friction, making this, really straightforward and simple for people and not losing them at this stage, because you got them this deep into the journey, let's convert them. So practical steps are simplify the decision making, limit the options, and make the next step obvious. Don't give, look at all the variants of our products and services. Aren't we clever? Limit the options. Option A versus option B, this size or that size, this color or that color. Make it binary. That's a much, much easier way of doing things. If you have children or you work with children or you're giving children choices, what you do is you give them choice A or choice B. You don't say, okay, what would you like to do? You give them a choice A or choice B, and then they're making a decision based on a very simple binary choice. I'm not saying your customers are like children, but actually they're humans. So that will potentially work really well. We also need to reinforce trust signals. So things like security badges, clear pricing, refund policies just makes that kind of decision and that choice a lot simpler. It kind of protects them. It reduces any risk in making the wrong decision. So that's what we're trying to do is retain that trust through the conversion stage. Trigger actions as well are really important. Time sensitive offers, personal follow ups, A/B testing your calls to action to make sure you've got the right one in the right place. You might even put in things like FOMO in here, fear of missing out. In other words, if somebody isn't willing to make the decision and take action right now, I'm sorry, but there could be consequences. So, there are only a limited number of products available. But if you commit now, you're going to get one. There's a seat available in this auditorium, or we've got 12 boxes of this product left. Would you like one of those? We see this all the time. These are the trigger actions that affect all of us in our consumer buying behavior. They will work for you in your conversion stage. And also humanizing support. I mean, as we move into automation, using AI and chatbots and all these kinds of things to help the journey because it makes our life easier, making sure that we show empathy in sales and customer service language. So making it human and maybe even including a human as a fallback position here. So maybe this is for a VIP style product where you say, okay, well, let's walk with you over the line as you commit here. Maybe again for your product or service, that would be appropriate. But it's super important to really be thinking about this from the customer's perspective, because their mindset is moving from trust to decision to action. And what we're trying to do here is based on a number of psychological theories. Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, which has had many, many iterations and has been recently revised, talks about actually reducing friction as a really key thing here. So, you could review, for example, one landing page or sales email and identify, as an example, to learn this stuff, one friction point one missing trust cue, and one stronger action phrase to test. That's what I'd recommend you do as you're starting to bring this customer journey philosophy to life in the work that you've already got so you can seek improvement areas for yourself. Use the psychology of persuasion. Robert Cialdini's work is really fascinating when it comes to some of these little simple steps that we can take, which will make a profound difference to the number of people who actually commit. And from a commercial sense, the number of customers we actually get to play with and work with. Really important. So let's now assume the customer's done it, they've bought, they've gone through that decision-making process, they've actually made a decision, they've taken action, and they are now a customer. So they move into the part three, the retention stage. Love this bit. This is the real fun bit because this is where most of your customers' lifetime value, and however you define it, could be financial, could be elsewhere, but however you define it, this is where the value of successful marketing comes into play. It isn't just about creating awareness. That's what 99% of the people on the planet think marketing is. But actually, the most successful marketing, particularly in the customer journey, is in the retention stage. Because this is where we're moving from a decision and an action to intimacy and then loyalty and then advocacy. Now, just think about this. If you think about the mindset, somebody's just committed to you, they bought. So now they've decided, okay, I want a relationship with this brand, this business, this product and service, these people that I've committed to. So now I'm looking for some intimacy. I want them to know me. I want to know them. I want to go deeper in the relationship. And so their mindset is that from an intimacy perspective, they want to feel that they understand me personally, the brand I'm talking about. So the brand really gets me. And I believe they're going to serve me with great value into the future. That's what the customer wants to feel. From a loyalty perspective, they will say, I prefer them over others. Yeah, I just do. I'm really loyal to them. I'd always go back to them first, or, they're always going to be the ones who are on my radar because they just value my relationship with them. So I'm going to stay with them and be loyal. Of course, ultimately, isn't that what we all want from our customers? Well, it's not down to the customer, it's down to us to choreograph the retention stage to enable that. And of course, the advocacy bit is the key here. And this is where a lot of the value is going to come from, the actual tangible commercial value, because you think of a customer and you think of them as, well, how much have they spent? Oh, well, okay, that number's gone down. But if they are always recommending you to others, colleagues, family, friends, everyone else around them, that's advocacy. That is, doubling, 10xing, 100xing the value that they actually spend with us, the value that they commit because they're bringing others into the customer journey at the awareness stage. So you've got an opportunity to really go deep and really grow your organization by attending to your existing customers. And so your goal here, in lots of ways, is to move beyond satisfaction, the customer satisfaction elements and things that we rate, into much more emotional commitment. We need to go deeper. Remember, this is what they're looking to kind of go to, is this idea of becoming intimate with you, going and becoming loyal, and then advocating you. There's some huge value and a lot of stuff that most of us, leaving on the table here because if you've got happy customers, they are willing to do marketing for you. And because it comes from them, not from you, it is very, very trustworthy because, their friends and family know that they've experienced you already. So the sell is done in many, many ways. So this is a great way of building a business. So, what kind of touch points have we got then in the retention stage, part three of the customer journey? Well, obviously, partly is customer onboarding. So, when they actually have done that action to commit to us to buy that first product or service, onboarding them carefully and strategically is key. So, follow up emails or care calls, some loyalty and referral programs, making them feel special, making them feel VIP is really important. Feedback surveys and communities, if you can build some little communities of like minded people, they'll love that. And of course, personalized recommendations, looking forward into the relationship and saying, okay, you're always going to be the first to hear about this or about that. We're going to invite you to this or to that because we value the relationship from our side. It's really important. We're nurturing loyalty and advocacy. So, practical steps you can take are building emotional intimacy, really important, showing appreciation through personalizing the experience you give to them in the long term, rewarding the loyalty as well. So, incentives, early access, VIP content that I mentioned before, super important here. Remember, they're looking to get professionally intimate with you. So serve them with that. They're asking for it. This is the easiest sell you can ever possibly do because the customer is warm, it's hot for it. This is key. You can empower advocacy. You can make sharing easy, social sharing, review prompts, just giving information and content that is super easy for your customer to share with their networks. You can empower advocacy. You can help them to do this and close the loop, respond publicly to feedback, good or bad. It's really important that you value the customer as a real source of trends, information, and feedback about how the products and services are being used, about how you as a brand or business are performing. All of these things can really help the nuance of the content that you're publishing. So almost forget that front end of the funnel at this stage, that whole shout, 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 come and look at us, come and see our products and services. This is the deeper part of the journey where the magic happens. I always try and encourage my clients and the people I work with to start here. Don't start at the awareness stage where all the noise is. Start here where the relationships already are, because this is often much easier to do business in this kind of sphere, but it's also that the customers potentially are ready to take action more instantly. That's key. So, a little exercise you could do is list one retention tactic you can improve this quarter. Just think about what you do. It could be onboarding, could be recognition, could be follow up. And then define how you'll measure its success if you can improve it. Is it repeat purchases? Is it referrals? Is it reviews? It's all about starting small, identifying little pieces of your journey, your customer journey that you're plotting out here, the channels you're using, the content you're putting down there, and just starting to incrementally improve each one. Because once you realize there are multiple steps, multiple channels, loads of different content, different mindsets, people at different stages of the journey, you realize this is a big beast to work with. So start small. One retention tactic you could improve this quarter. Decide what that is and then define how you'll measure the success of focusing on it, because this will become addictive. You'll want to do more. When you see the success that comes through with very little effort, if you build this small, you can start to scale and you can get other people on board as well. Really, really key. And ultimately, we're moving here to part four, which is extending lifetime value. And customer lifetime value really, really matters. Acquiring new customers costs 5 to 7 times more than retaining existing ones. That's a Harvard survey. Harvard Business Review 2023. Acquiring new customers is 5 to 7 times more costly than retaining existing ones. And we've got this phrase here, customer lifetime value. That is a strategic aim within your business. Design every stage of your journey, every piece of marketing that you do to increase CLV, customer lifetime value. And of course, where would you start for that? Well, ultimately, and obviously, it's going to be in the retention stage, deeper into the journey, because that's where probably most of your data already exists. That's where a lot of the fun is going to happen, but it can happen at any stage in the journey. Customer lifetime value KPIs can be set at any level. From the awareness stage, it could be key metrics like reach, engagement, and brand recall. And you can use tools like Google Analytics or Sprout Social to help you with that. The conversion phase also, you can extend lifetime value here. Click-through rates, conversion rates, cost of acquisition. And the tools that are available there can be things like Optimizely, HubSpot, and Google Analytics. But we're talking now predominantly about the later paid stages of the customer journey, the retention stage. The key metrics here are things like the traditional Net Promoter Score, NPS for customer satisfaction, repeat purchase rate, customer lifetime value, if you can rate that. And again, many tools available. They might be your latest AI dashboard, or it could be Hotjar, Klaviyo, or Power BI. Lots of different ways you can start to create dashboards for how you're going to measure, but also rate the improvements that you're going to see going forward. And really, what we're looking for here are little feedback loops for improvement. That's really what we're after. We're looking to collect journey data across different touch points. So once you've plotted out your customer journey, keeping it simple as you possibly can, of all of those little routes through with the little calls to action, and where does somebody go after they see this landing page and they go to that site and they go to this page and they download this PDF and they do this and they do that. Literally collecting the data across all of these touch points will enable you to detect drop-off points or bottlenecks where a predominant number of people actually don't go any further than that page, or they don't actually go beyond that particular channel or tool. Why is it? Well, that's where you can do deep analysis. So the data collection is really, really important. And of course, you can feed this into your broader customer journey, but also feed the learnings into your next campaign plan. This is ongoing, or as we call it, continuous improvement. Really important to do. So how can we start to put this stuff into practice? So we've got our three phases, and really the idea is to use, I guess, a sort of customer journey blueprint. So I've talked about plotting out the journey. So get the post-it notes out or get your digital whiteboard out and start to plot out step by step what your journey is. The awareness stage, inspire curiosity and trust. The conversion stage, simplifying the decision and enabling an action. The retention stage, nurturing loyalty and creating advocates. Each of the loops here, each of those steps of building customer lifetime value is about generating intentional connection rather than leaving things to chance. It's very easy not to do this and just kind of assume that people will get it and will do what you want them to do. But plotting it out step by step using a customer journey blueprint is a far more tangible way of doing it. So create for yourself some kind of mapping template. I mean, the three stages, awareness, conversion, retention, you know what the customer's mindset is. So you know what you're trying to do for them. Hope to trust, trust to action, intimacy to advocacy. So decide what the relevant tools are as you're mapping this out. Create that template, create that map. Awareness stage is probably content, SEO, and social. Conversion stage is probably landing pages and emails. Retention stage is probably channels that will inspire loyalty and feedback. And then put some measurable outcomes. What is it you want to achieve at each of those stages? So here's a nice way, probably with communicating this with colleagues or with your line manager or with an agency. Awareness stage. The measurable outcome is engagement rate. That's the key one, isn't it, really, if you think about it? People are only really aware if they engage with you. So what is the engagement rate through each of the channels? In the conversion stage, well, it's the obvious one, it's the conversion rate. How many people who were aware actually bought? How many actually converted? How many, signatures did you get on contracts? How many products did you ship out of the warehouse? Whatever your conversion point is, what was the rate of conversion versus how many people actually were aware? And then in the retention stage, yeah, ultimately we do want to build loyalty and we do want to get feedback, but it's the repeat purchase rate. I mean, you might find a way if you go deeper into this of actually proving the advocacy, particularly if you do share share this information with a friend, and if they sign up, we've got their friend's details, and then obviously you can rate that back to the original person. So you might figure out a way of doing that, but generally the simple measurable outcome at the retention stage is repeat purchase rate. How often do people actually, your existing customers, come back and purchase again? That's a key measurable outcome. So we need to be at each of these stages having these more kind of strategic outcomes that we're going for that then give us the KPIs behind those that show how we're progressing in improving to increase those measurable outcomes. And because emotion drives movement through the journey, there's a role here for storytelling and actually building not only those kind of goals and the framework, but actually putting some fuel into our journey. And by fuel, I mean content, because the content is going to change because the emotions are different, the mindset's different at each of the stages. So the content we should be putting through and the storytelling at the awareness stage is empathy and curiosity. That's what we kind of, the kind of stories that we need to be telling. At the conversion stage, it's all about confidence and clarity. And at the retention stage, it's about belonging and pride. And these are subtle kind of messages that I'm giving you here, which is about thinking through, not just putting content out there and thinking, oh, I hope somebody reads this article or this blog or this thought leadership piece, but putting it out there with true intention. What is it we're supporting in the customer's mind through this channel when we put this piece of content into it, no matter whether it's socials or email or wherever? We've got to be consistent, using consistent narratives across the channels to keep the customers emotionally connected. Because you might think you've built the most beautiful, the most simple, the most straightforward, clear calls to action across this beautifully artistic and scientifically created customer journey. And then you fuel it with the same piece of content all the way through. And you think that's going to work. Well, it isn't, as we obviously know now, because the customer's in a different space, a different mindset. So thinking about that storytelling leads us into a little bit of I guess, a live workshop activity. You can come back and do this again and again, or if you're watching this or listening to this on catch up, press pause, reflect, think about it, and then come back and press unpause. But a live workshop activity that I could set for you would be for you to choose one audience segment. Think about one persona who you'd love to target through a customer journey. Map their journey, not just the generic journey you have as a business, but their journey, their ideal journey through awareness to conversion to retention. And then when you've mapped that out for this one persona or this one audience segment, identify one improvement for each phase. Just think about one thing you could do, where maybe one area where the content's not quite right, or maybe where you have to review the channels that you've chosen, or maybe where actually you're not building that confidence or that intimacy or that loyalty or whatever it is for whichever stage. And write one next step action for your team, or if it's just you, what you're going to do next as a result of that understanding. What a great little activity. Again, another little incremental step forward in improving your marketing and communications. And by doing that, you can then press pause again and just reflect and think, what can I simplify in my conversion stage? Think about also, what can I personalize in my retention stage? And reflect on, where do customers lose trust most often, and how can I rebuild it? This is all about continuously reflecting, being really honest about from the customer's perspective. So step into their shoes, look at it through their lens, and look back at your organization. Go through the journey yourself, step by step by step, and think, okay, from the customer's perspective, this page is absolutely tragic because I can't see where to go next. Or, oh, that image on that post there, yeah, it doesn't really say an awful lot, does it? From the customer's perspective, we thought it looked beautiful, but actually, when I look at this through the customer's lens, it's not quite right. We would have lost a customer there just because it didn't work. It just didn't engage. It didn't hook. It didn't get them to the next stage. We lost them. So the reflections that you'll have once you build this customer journey will be something that you can build into your daily practice. And I really would encourage this to be a daily practice. It's exciting, it's powerful, and it's how good marketers operate. And so, what we're going to be doing here, then, I guess, as part 7, is to embed the journey into our thinking, turning journey mapping into habit, reviewing customer journey maps, maybe quarterly, maybe even monthly when you're starting out, and share journey insights across the teams, sales, service, product, because this isn't just a marketing activity. Marketing probably should own it, really, if you're thinking about it, because all these touch points, marketing can be responsible and accountable for, but not in isolation. So get your sales team involved, get customer service, get product development, whichever other parts of your business need to be involved, because they will be involved at certain points. They are probably the lead at certain points. I mean, sales at the conversion point, probably if you've got a sales team, they're key. They're absolutely key. Maybe in marketing, you just hand over the accountability through that stage of the journey. But it's only going to happen consistently if they also understand what is going on. And of course, where you can, automate routine follow ups, but humanize every interaction. So some things will always be very approachable and applicable to do as an automation. So this is where AI and chatbots and avatars and stuff and agents can come into play. We don't need to do every single follow up as a human. That's very costly. But where every interaction needs that human feel That's the value of the experience that customers are looking for. So decide where automation would fit and sit most appropriately, but also where you just want to keep it human because that is the best way to get best value. And try and avoid some of the common mistakes. This is where I've seen over the years kind of people really sort of falling down in this because probably by this point you're thinking, this is good stuff. I can really imagine us doing this and really imagine us, really seeing some commercial value from doing it. And then failing by the big three things, which is treating journey stages as departments. Much as I just described handing stuff over to sales for this part of the journey, well, it's from the customer's perspective, so they might not want that. So collaboration, co-creation is key. The second mistake to avoid is ignoring post-purchase communication. When you think about the last product, maybe a big ticket product, so something that cost you quite a bit, if you weren't then followed up in an appropriate way, was that the right kind of thing for that brand to interact with you? Did they miss a trick? Was it because you're in that mindset of just trying to justify that this was a good purchase? Maybe it was a car, maybe it was an expensive pair of shoes, whatever it was. You do want that kind of assurance that I've just made a good decision. Don't you? I mean, as a human, that is kind of what we often go through. So your customers, be they B2B or B2C, they're going to be feeling that way too. So the post-purchase communication is key. Give them that reassurance that this was a good decision. I've got your back. Come with us on this journey. We're going to get professionally intimate in this relationship. That's what your customer wants to hear. So don't ignore post-purchase communication. The customer wants to hear from you at that stage. And the third mistake to avoid is measuring only clicks instead of emotions and satisfaction. Very easy to create a dashboard, very easy to create a process and a system that just measures the objective, the numbers, and just does the numbers and reports that back. But make sure you've got a subjective overlay. So you're kind of listening to the audience, you're getting some subjective feedback. How are they feeling at each step as they click through? Is it a conscious click through? Was it by mistake? Is it something they want to do or they just felt obliged to do? How satisfied and happy are they as they're taking these actions? That's really key. And the journey is a value multiplier. Every improvement in awareness in the conversion stage or as you push through retention will compound overall customer lifetime value. The more trust, confidence, and loyalty you can choreograph through this customer journey process, the greater the lifetime relationship value. And that means more pound signs on your spreadsheet. That means more customers into the future. This stuff genuinely, truly, really works. If you're willing to devote time and energy to this, it will work. This is the way to grow business. This is a way to perform as a successful marketer. So, a final reflection here plotting the journey creates purpose, ignoring it creates waste. You do not want to leave value on the table. By doing it this way, you'll get a really clear understanding of actually what's going on in your business when it comes to marketing, but also, and really importantly, how that plays out from your customers' perspectives. By designing for mindsets, hope to trust, trust to action, intimacy to advocacy, you are going to be able to move forward from just single transactions where you then have to go back and try and sell to another customer. The value of your business is in your customer database, so go and support them. Retention is everything. And what we're moving here is from single transactions to lasting relationships that will build sustainable growth and brand reputation into the future. And for me, those are the two big things. The real reasons why we are marketers and why we're in marketing: long-term sustainable brand growth and reputation. So good luck with your customer journey plotting. I hope you have a really exciting and interesting experience as you go through doing this. And do share how your experience has played out commercially in your business or for building your brand into the future. I have every confidence that if you follow some of these tips, if not everything that we've talked about here, you'll be in a far better place, a far more measurable place into the future. So good luck, and I wish you every success.